Robert, I'll let you do the initial introduction when you're ready.
Yeah, I say let's get started. So we appreciate everyone getting on today. Thank you so much. Keith is going to be the MC today, and I'll just let him dive right in and start with his PowerPoint. And the chat will be open, so if you have questions, just go ahead and put them into the chat room, and I'll try to address them to Keith, get them to Keith at least at the end.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keith Vallely. I'm a Senior Consultant and Vice President at Epona USA. Thank you for attending today's ILTA event, Vendor Product Focus, or I can't remember the proper term for it. But today what we're going to be presenting is leaving Worldox for another DMS, and what we want to give you is an opportunity to see how you can utilize Microsoft 365 as your document management platform. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to try to show you how you can do that very thing and choose Microsoft 365 as your document management platform with the assistance of Epona. We're going to try not to dominate the entire hour that we have set aside for you today with Epona sales speak. And what we'll do today is we're going to start with a presentation on PowerPoint, just to give you a bit of, so to speak, setting the table. Then we'll show you, or I'll show you, some of our solution set so you can see it. We'll try to do this as quickly as possible. And then we're going to turn the stage over to a couple of current clients. Heather Hawken, who is a managing partner at Culhane Meadows, and Chad Mawson, who's an IT director, IT manager at Woods Aiken. And they can, of course, then tell you exactly what it's like to be on the Microsoft 365 platform, having been worked with Epona for either a number of years or a couple of years. And then you can, of course, find out what it is directly from clients of ours. And of course, we'll sit back and hopefully they'll say positive things, which I believe they will. So that's it. Of course, questions will be in the chat, and Robert will send those directly over to me at the appropriate times. We'll take questions. So let's just dive in with the PowerPoint. The first thing, and I think the most important thing for people to understand about this, our solution as compared to, say, a NetDocument solution or an iManage solution or any other solution, including a Worldox solution, is you're really looking at a solution that is a Microsoft solution with Epona assistance. In other words, we are going to provide you a fully integrated Microsoft 365 solution because it's a Microsoft 365 solution with Epona sewing the solution together. In other words, we give legal professionals the ability to be fully capable and productive. In other words, there's no vendor lock. Your data remains in the Microsoft cloud. There are no Epona storage fees. You're utilizing the Microsoft security, and the entire solution is more cost effective than the other platform solutions because there's no Epona storage costs. There's no Epona fees of any kind after the initial setup, with the sole exception of our licensing and our support costs. So when we talk about document management, we're really going to ask some of the key questions of what can Epona offer, why Microsoft, and what is it that you would require from the Microsoft 365 platform. And actually, those questions are pretty straightforward. What you require from a document management system is pretty much the same thing no matter where you go. What you want is a scalable and secure cloud solution. You want the ability to either have records or e-discovery potentiality on that platform without, if possible, additional costs. You want the possibility of workflow capabilities, integration with well-known and consistent applications, email management through Outlook. If you could get Teams, if you're interested in it, you want Teams. You definitely want integration with Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and Office Suite. If you can get record management and e-discovery at no additional cost, you'd like it. Is it possible to get DocuSign and Adobe Sign integration without any additional cost? You definitely want to have the ability to work with your iPhone, your iPad, maybe an Android phone too, yeah? And these are all the kinds of things you're looking for. With the Microsoft Cloud, you can have all that without question. But to get it all, you probably need a company like Epona to help. That's why the Fortune 100, 20% of the Fortune 100 has already chosen Epona, because Epona can bring all that to the table. And hundreds of law firms have done the exact same thing. They've chosen Epona because we can bring Microsoft Epona 365 to Teams, DMS for Legal, which Chad and Heather, we're going to rebrand DMS for Legal, Epona 365 as well. We're going to try and make it all one big name now, but you guys don't know that yet, but we'll let you know. Anyway, Epona 365 is going to be the brand new name where everything's going to be the same name, but you can have workspaces, integration with your desktop, migration capability, contract management, knowledge management if you want it, mobile device integration, all of it built together to work as one big, different, accessible content management platform on the Microsoft 365 platform. It doesn't matter what device you have in your hand or on the desktop or wherever you are. I want to use the green eggs and ham story, but I think you guys all know it, where you can access your content from wherever you are as long as it's in the Microsoft Cloud. And Epona helps with that. So one of the things that our competitors like to do is they like to try to say, well, we're so much bigger than Epona, or we can do things that Epona can't do. But really what they're picking is the fight with the wrong guy. They want to really, what they really should be doing is trying to pick a fight with Microsoft, because the reality is Microsoft is the platform. And the reason they don't want to do that is because they would lose that fight. See, Microsoft 365 is really where all your content would be stored. It's where all the core functionality is coming from. It's where your security is coming from. It's where your documents are going to live. It's where all of the critical elements of your DMS exist. The metadata, the security, the version control, all of it happens in Microsoft. Globally, 345 million licensed users of Microsoft 365, $20 billion in R&D alone this year, 20 billion minutes on Microsoft Teams in one day in 2020. How does that comport with the competition with respect to iManage and NetDocs? They can't compete. They simply can't compete. So when we talk about Microsoft 365, what we're talking about here is the single most powerful software company on earth. Now, I can't compare that to the Egyptians of ancient times because, well, I wasn't around back then. But as far as today is concerned, this is the most powerful software company we have. And what they've done for you is made it possible to prevent data loss, to govern your data. Some of you may have heard of Microsoft Endpoint Security. Heather can even talk about that with you today if you're interested. But what we're talking about here is from keyboard to cloud security. You can deploy it with Microsoft. The competitors that are not on this call, hopefully, like NetDocs and iManage and folks like that, can't compete with that. This is the solution of the future. It's the solution you should be looking at, and it's no extra cost. You're probably already paying for it if you have Microsoft 365 for your email. And you're probably not even looking at all the rest of what you already pay for. So the question then becomes, can I turn the rest of my Microsoft 365 into a document management system? And the answer is probably yes. So Microsoft is the platform where your core functional elements exist. SharePoint, Exchange, Power Automate, Workflows, Teams, the whole 9 yards is already there. So all you really need is a partner where Epona can come in, and that's your partner. Epona comes in and configures your Microsoft platform to work as a legal document management system. And we can do it cost effectively. One-time sets of costs that we can then migrate your content into your brand new shiny DMS, where we move all that content out of Worldox directly into the DMS. And we've got lots of experience doing it. So if you can get past the pink cake here, Microsoft bakes the cake. I don't know what that weird pink line is on the left there, but Epona puts the cherries on top. So today you'll get an opportunity to talk to two of our clients who have been in a DMS that was configured to meet the requirements of their firms, Heather Hawken and Chad Mawson, and they will tell you all about the migrations and everything else that we did for them. Chad's firm has been in an Epona DMS for a year plus, and Heather's firm has been in it for 3 years, I think, and they will be able to talk to you all about their experiences. Today's goal today is we're going to show you what's possible on the Microsoft 365 platform when we show you exactly how everything works. We're going to spend about 15 to 17 minutes, which will take us to the bottom of the hour, exactly what our solution provides. And so before we jump into that, I have to give you just a minute or two about understanding a SharePoint DMS and how it works. So if there's one slide that you take a screen cap on and you take back to your firms, this is it. This is the screen cap right here. Basically, what we do is we create a site, a SharePoint site as a DMS site, and we make it a matter. A single site becomes a matter. And by that, it's basically a bucket. And because we now have your nomenclature and we have a site as a bucket, a matter site, we then have security around that site and metadata and who has access and the whole 9 yards. And every matter is a site, every matter is a bucket. And you can put content in that bucket. And that gives us a whole lot of really cool flexibility. And a SharePoint site has a tremendous amount of flexibility and power. You can have a team for that bucket. You can do all kinds of really cool things. You can do workflows around it. You can do all kinds of amazing stuff. But once we have that bucket, we can then access that bucket through desktop applications, browsers, Teams, OneDrives, mobile devices, the whole 9 yards. Also, from other capable things like records management, you can then take it and move that bucket as a record set. You can also do e-discovery on it. You can do all kinds of amazing things on a matter-by-matter basis. So now that we've covered this, let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like. And we're going to try to move very quickly in this demonstration because I only want to spend about 15 minutes demonstrating all of the different ways in which we can look at how to configure a Microsoft 365 platform like SharePoint into a DMS. So let's jump right in. To begin, this is a SharePoint site, Bantam Books versus Borders. By taking a look at it, it looks like any other SharePoint site. Now we can do some special things with any SharePoint site. We can give it a home page where matter information is listed here, and we can put some really nifty matter information on it. And we're going to jump right in here and say, here's a OneNote notebook that's associated with the matter. If I click this, it'll take me to a OneNote notebook. And for those of you who like OneNote notebooks, you can have a OneNote notebook per matter. You can also see that we've created a team that's associated with this matter. This is the little team icon. It can take me to the Microsoft Teams channel. Some firms, like Heather's firm, has a team for every single matter, and they have a lot of utility in that. Other firms would not elect to go down that route. We have all kinds of flexibility. No two DMSs are the same on the Microsoft 365 platform. We're going to jump into the Documents folder here, and we'll go right in, and here are my folders within the Documents area or the Doc library. When I click the Documents folder, I can then see I have my documents, versions, and other metadata properties. What's important for you to get from what I'm showing you here is this is just regular old SharePoint that has been properly configured to work as a document management system. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want to show you a couple little details. When I select this document, I can click the Details button, and you'll see here a preview of the document, how many times it's been viewed, who has access, and metadata properties that have been configured for this particular document. You'll also notice here that there is additional activity on the document, and so on and so forth. All I'm really trying to show you is that this is a standard configured correctly to work as a document management system SharePoint site. If I click the sync button, I'll get a Microsoft OneDrive, a OneDrive for Business site, so I can synchronize directly with my desktop. I can also do things like utilize Power Automate here to request a sign off on this document. I can check my version history here, set an alert on this document. I can pin this document to the top. I can manage my access here. I can even share the document out to external parties if the SharePoint site has been set up properly for security purposes. The reason I'm just showing you this once again is simply to give you the understanding that this site has been configured by Epona with no special tools, no special Epona software installed on SharePoint to work as a document management system. Once that is done, let's go back to the PowerPoint. We can now use this SharePoint bucket as a DMS, and we can now access it with desktop applications. So let's jump into Outlook, which is where we're going to start. So I am now in my inbox. Standard run-of-the-mill Outlook here, folks. And we're going to jump down into my DMS for Office add-in. Epona has two add-ins, one called DMS for Office, one called DMS for Legal. What's the difference? Nothing. DMS for Office is for folks who like to use workspaces by nomenclature. That's sort of the iManage crew. Some folks like to use My Matters by nomenclature. That's for, everybody else. So as you can see here, it says My Workspaces. You could also say My Matters. I'm going to expand this. And as you can see here, we have these grouped by client or by department, etc. I'm going to go ahead and expand Amazon. And here's my Bantam Books versus Borders. If I expand that matter, you can see I have my folders. When I select the Documents folder, you can now see here's the very same documents that we were just looking at stored here in the browser or in SharePoint. As you can see here, here's Bantam Books versus Borders, and here's my Documents folder, and here are the documents. The very first one is Notes. The second one is Epona Product Schedule. Let's jump back over here to Outlook. The very first one is Notes, and the second one is Epona Product Schedule. When I select Epona Product Schedule, I get a preview of the document here. What this tells you is I can access my documents without ever looking at a browser. I can live right here in Outlook. So if I wanted to work on this document, what would I do? I would simply double click the document and it would open directly for me on my desktop. Document is opening. Now, of course, I'm broadcasting video here, so it's going to take a bit of a moment or two. It is usually faster when you're not broadcasting video. So now I'm going to go ahead and make an edit. And I'm going to go ahead and save the document. And the document is going to give me my document save method screen. If I want to save it as a new document, I can select that, and it would give me a choice to save to a different matter. I can also save and publish, and this will give me the comments screen where I can save it to and give it a new major version, which is exactly what I'm going to do.
Hey, Keith,
yes.
Can I jump in real quick because I want to make sure everybody understood what you just said, because it's really important, because it's a differentiating factor with Worldox. Yeah. That lag you saw is not what happens in real time. It is totally because he is transmitting video on Teams. That lag you saw does not happen in real time. In real time, it is fast. It is very quick. We've never had a problem with the lags that we experience with Worldox.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you. Save for ILTA demo. Okay, cool. Goes up to the cloud. Boom. And done. So now I'm going to go ahead and close this document. And as you can see, it's now a version 3.0. I'll right click on this document. We will check my versions here. And here it is, save for ILTA demo. I can also check my document properties here. And as you can see, here are my document properties. It's important for you to understand that these document properties are demo document properties. You can have whatever document properties are appropriate for your firm, for your requirements, which will be sussed out when we do the consulting work to get your document properties configured correctly. You'll notice here that there are some document properties like document type and document status, which are pretty common for different firms. Heather, of course, can speak to her experience when we went through it because her firm had some very special needs, and we made sure to get those requirements built out the way she wanted them. As you can see here under document type, I've selected the ellipse, which gives me choices. I'm going to change this to memoranda of agreement, say OK, and I'm going to click OK here. And now it's going to change the version to 3.1. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and do search. Search is very simple, it's easy to use, and is very fast. So if I wanted to search for content within a matter or within a folder, I could simply select the folder and search here. I could search within a matter here, but I'm going to search within the entire DMS simply by selecting my workspaces, putting my mouse cursor directly inside of the search box inside of Outlook, and now I'm going to run a search for the word Chicago, and I hit enter. When I do that, I get back all of the content that has the word Chicago in it, whether it's in a document, whether it's a metadata property, you name it. So I'm going to go ahead and make this wider so I can see the preferences, so I can see the document better. But I want you to go ahead and cast your eyes over here to the right and take a look at my search refiners. As you can see here, there are 258 emails, 113 PDFs, and so on. As I scroll down, you'll notice author, client name, matter code, matter name, document status, and so on. These additional field properties are, again, simply because that's what we configured here in the test environment. Your search refiners would be configured to your requirements in your firm. So every firm is different, and again, whatever is relevant and important for your firm is what your search refiners would be. I'm going to go ahead and click email and tighten up my search. It's important for you to understand that none of the data or documents are stored locally. So that's why this search is so fast. So if I go ahead and select this document right here, you can see that I've of course selected a document, and there's no Chicago highlighted here. Let me pick a different one right here. Let's pick this one right here. You can see Chicago is highlighted on these emails right here. Right? This is important for you to understand that SharePoint does a really good job of highlighting within emails where the words are located. It doesn't do it for any other type of document. Microsoft says it'll be adding it to Word documents and things like that, though they haven't done that just as of yet. So let's go back to this one here, this other email. You'll notice nothing has been highlighted within this email. That means that the word Chicago is in the email attachment. Now, for a lot of folks, they don't prefer to what I call dive down or drill down in their searches. They prefer to search more actively. They prefer to use what I would call the boxes. So they would prefer to use an advanced search box set like this. Of course, we have that too. And if you want a search set of boxes in the advanced search that meet your requirements, we're happy to provide that. So one of our clients is the phone company of Canada called Bell Canada. Their corporate legal department required that we have a search box for literally every property in an email. So if that's what your preference is, we can do that as well. So the send to, send from, received, etc. We have a box for every one of those fields. So if you'd like that in your environment, we can do that for you as well. Okay. Going to go ahead and hit cancel here, but I think search has been pretty well shown here. Now we'll do just a couple of things for email management, just so you can see it here. I'll just show you some of the nifty stuff. As far as emails, getting them into your matter, I've seen a lot of different things with Worldox clients. All kinds of different things. A lot of the Worldox clients I've seen, it kind of falls into two different categories. Half the Worldox folks that we've cut over don't use email management at all, and the other half are very well deployed with email management. So it's kind of a mixed bag. So I'll just kind of show a couple of email management things we can do for you that integrate directly and very positively in terms of Microsoft 365 here. Here's the first one, and let's just get the obvious out of the way. If you wanted to file an email directly into a matter, you can take the email and drag it right into the email folder, obviously because they're right next to each other. Let go, and the email will go directly into the email folder inside of the DMS. Now, for me, because that's a move and my inbox is my source of truth, that's very worrisome for me. Of course, I like to keep everything in my inbox. That's why I have, thousands and thousands of emails in my inbox. There is another way. I consider it a better way, and let me show you how that works. You have an email here. What you can do is put a copy of the email into the matter and leave the email in your inbox. So in this case, I have my email with the two attachments right here. I've opened it, and I want to put this email into the Bantam Books versus Borders matter. The way to do that is to simply put my mouse cursor in the file email toolbar and then type the name of the matter directly into the toolbar, and then click the file button. And what's great about this, and let's just give it a moment, 1, 2, 3, it's now going to show as filed here in the email itself. And here's the magic of it. I think this is super cool. My developers say, hey man, everybody has this, but I don't know. I think it's great. Everybody that is inside the firm that is on this email will also see the filed indicator once one person files it. So I consider this a bit magical, but my developers say, hey man, everybody has that. I don't know. Anyway, so if you take a look here, you'll see that it shows filed inside the categories column. And if you take a look here, please file this email, I can go ahead and select it, and it shows that it was filed in the Bantam Books versus Borders email. We can come down here and select one. This shows it was filed in Dollar City, Ryerstown Road Plaza, and everybody that was on this email also sees it in their inbox that it was filed, which is really nice. Now, we also have a file and send feature where if I file an email and it gets sent, when the recipient gets the email and they reply to it, that email also comes back directly and gets filed into the matter as well. Now, for brevity's sake, we're going to jump over to the web here, but let's go back directly to this PowerPoint slide just so you can see it. So I've shown briefly how you can work inside of Outlook and how you can work inside of Word. The same is true for the other applications. We're going to spend a brief moment here showing you how you can work in File Explorer with OneDrive, and then we're going to jump over into the browsers. We'll spend a minute in Teams, and then we're going to turn over the rest of the time to our colleagues or my clients, and so that they can talk with you if you have any questions. And then, of course, if the clients want to have me demonstrate certain things to you for questions that you might have, I'd be happy to do that as well. So,
hey, Keith, can I pop in real quick? Can you go back to Outlook? Because I think this is a feature that maybe you don't appreciate how valuable it is to law firms. Because
go ahead.
When you make a change to a new document management system, especially if you haven't been using, to your point in Worldox, haven't been using the integration on the Outlook side.
Yeah.
A lot of attorneys are so used to using their native folders in Outlook to file everything, and that's their normal. So then if you tell them, oh, in addition to saving in your native folders, you also have to then drag into the DMS folders, or you have to do the file email like you just did. But Epona offers something called synchronize to the DMS. So if you already have a native folder in your Outlook, and let's say it's for matter ABC, as soon as you drag and drop into your native folder, which is what the people are already doing in your firm, once you synchronize that to the DMS, there is no extra step required to get it into the DMS. So it's literally killing two birds with one stone. It's giving your attorneys the comfort that they still have everything in their own native folders to look at whenever they want. But it also gives you the comfort that things are getting into the DMS, because that is an issue at most law firms, is attorneys forget to file emails in the DMS. They're really good about documents, but maybe not so much with emails. And this feature essentially lets attorneys be lazy and not have to learn something new. So I just thought I'd point that out.
I can show it for sure. So what Heather's talking about is here's an inbox folder called Client X. And I want to put all the emails that are in this Client X folder into their matter. So what I can do is I can right click on this folder and synchronize it directly into the matter for Dollar Tree. So I come in, oh, here's Dollar Tree corporate agreements. I don't want to use that one, it's a folderless matter. I'll come here to ExxonMobil and I'll say, okay, let's put it in the email folder here. And I right click, I select the email folder and I say, okay. So now I'm done. So now anytime I put an email in the client X folder, I don't have to worry. All that content is going to automatically synchronize. And as you can see here, one by one, those emails are filing directly into the matter. And once they're filed, anyone that's on those emails will see A, that they've been filed because they'll get the filed indicator in their inbox. And B, once I know they're filed, I can, of course, delete them if I want to. That's exactly what Heather was talking about. Sweet. Okay. Let's jump over to the web. So our newest product, DMS 365, Epona 365, gives users the ability to shed the folder trees, shed all of that, and work directly on their own documents. As you can see here, I'm just looking at documents. No more folder trees, no more anything, and they're all my documents. And these are where I am the author. Now, I can also go ahead and select recent documents where I was a modifier or participated in the document, or I can look at my matters. These are the documents that are trimmed to documents that are within my matters that are just stored in my matters. Or I can select all documents, and these are all the documents in the firm that I'm authorized to see. Now, these are just documents. If I want to add email, I can go ahead and click the email button. Now, I'm not going to do that for all documents. I would make more sense to do my matters and then check the email button right here, which I'm not going to do at the moment because I just, I can go ahead and do it. There we go. Okay, so now I've added email as well. Now, what I can also do, because of the way in which this system is set up, is I can then add filtering for DMS email or content types, document types, or even file types here. Now I'm going to remove email, and I'm back to just documents. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and select saving metadata, and I want to see these documents. I can go ahead and open the panel here and select preview. Now I can see the document. And if I want to work on this document, I simply double click and the document opens directly on my desktop. It also works much faster than this when you're not broadcasting video. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I can also filter by using filters here. So if I say just show me where the client name is Amazon, now I'm only looking at documents where the client is Amazon. And then I can filter some more with the matter name. And I can also then use search here. And then, of course, select the document and get the preview, where I'm also filtering along here. This is a very, very powerful way to work. It's very fast. Now, if you still, of course, want your folders, that's no problem. You come here to My Matters, you select the matter you want to work on, you double click it, and you back to your folders. Teams. Larry Johnson lawsuit. Epona has the ability to provision under the Files tab all of your folder trees. This means that orphan documents won't happen because underneath the Files tab, all of your content will be available to you. That means that these folders are also available to you underneath the trees here. Where's Larry Johnson? It's Johnson & Johnson, Larry Johnson lawsuit. Under the General tab, here are my folders. If I select correspondence here in Outlook, these folders and these documents are also available to me inside of the team here. If you don't want to have a full Teams integration, you can still have your DMS inside of Teams here using the Epona 365 app. And then finally, I don't want to wait for this thing to load. It's going to struggle to load because I'm on broadcasting video here. We're going to move over to OWA. And then finally, Epona also adds, to round out the entire offering, what Heather affectionately calls the magic button. Or she calls it I think she calls it the magic button, is the ability to file email in OWA. So if I select an email here, I am now in Outlook Web Access. I can file an email using a browser. What this means is you can operate in a Microsoft 365 environment with no software installed whatsoever, which means browser environment fully, and Epona gives you the ability to do that very same thing. So if I'm right here, I have my documents. Here it is. I want to file these emails, this email with these documents, dismiss. And I've now opened a panel inside the browser. You can see that these documents have already been filed to this matter. I'm going to file them to another workspace, and I'm going to file them to, let's see here, Delta Airlines, no, Dollar Tree. Let's do ExxonMobil. And I say next. I am now filing this email with the 2 attachments to the email folder. I'm now filing the documents themselves separately in a browser to different folder locations, and I'm clicking save, and it's happening in a browser. Because we can do this on a browser, we can also do this on an iPhone, an iPad, or an Android without installing software on any of those devices. Let's come back here to the PowerPoint. So what we've shown you today is that Epona has the ability to take the Microsoft application platform set and deliver the ability to sew it all together for you, where you can, with an initial cost of rolling out and deploying what it is you're looking for, set up desktop applications, browser capability, Teams integration, and OneDrive integration. Let me just show you what that looks like under the File Explorer tab. Under File Explorer, we come here, and here it is, Bantam Books under Epona USA right here. And now I can work here as well. And so I can work here too. So in other words, we've taken the Microsoft 365 platform. We have configured it to the requirements of your firm. And now you're able to use all of the capability and power that is at your disposal that you pay for. You can come here, you can select this button, and when you click Microsoft 365, you can now utilize and have access to, when you click the apps, you can start looking at these apps and not wondering and scratching your head and going, what do all this stuff do? Now you're working, now it's all working for you. And you can access the power. Is this where I can use my Star Wars stuff, Robert, and say the power of Microsoft 365? And Epona's here to help you with all of that. At this point, I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to turn over to questions that people have. And I'd like to open up the floor to questions for Heather and Chad so that they can talk to you about their experiences with Epona.
Keith, one of the other things I would say too that's very attractive, that was attractive and continues to be attractive for us is, and this is kind of taking a 10,000-foot level of what you just showed. This, by the power of Microsoft 365 in connection with Epona, you give your attorneys and your staff a variety of ways to access the DMS. So for example, if someone eats, lives, and breathes in Outlook, they never have to leave Outlook to do any of those things. But if somebody happens to like, working in a browser and they like the SharePoint experience, they can just work in SharePoint. If they like to use the last thing you showed, which was the File Explorer, and they want to sync their matters into OneDrive, and they love the foldering, right? Because you've got some people who cannot get away from this foldering of things, and they like the old school File Explorer. They're gonna like that too. And now if you have millennials that are totally bought into Teams, and they want to access their documents through Teams, they can do that as well. So I jokingly say it's like a shopping mall. When I train our new partners, I say it's like a shopping mall. You can get into the mall through Sears, you can get into the mall through Macy's, you can get into the mall through food court. So I say you can get in through Outlook, you can get in through SharePoint. And that is very attractive because you are giving people a choice to work how they feel comfortable, as opposed to forcing only one way to use the DMS, which again means you're more likely to get folks using it and using the full functionality if you give them choices on how they get in and access the data.
Amen, sister.
So, yeah, we do have some questions for Heather and Chad. So what initially made you look for another DMS when you were a Worldox user? And Heather, if you want to go first, that'd be great. And then Chad, you can follow up.
Sure, and this is kind of one of the reasons I wanted to pop in when Keith was presenting. Latency was a problem. We were on the cloud solution, and just by way of background, Coling Meadows, my firm, has been in a cloud environment for over 10 years. And so we had to have a good cloud platform. And so with Worldox, we just kept seeing so much latency, which of course brings frustration to your attorneys, which then of course wants them to not comply with firm protocols and save things in the DMS. They want to save it to their hard drive, which of course is catastrophically bad. And so that was one of the biggest reasons. The other reason we were finding is we knew we were going to Microsoft 365 and there wasn't this wonderful integration with 365. And, I was a bit ambitious in trying to think I could get all of our attorneys to suddenly start using things like OneNote and and ended up being surprised at how much that was utilized. So, when Keith showed that you can have a Matter and then a OneNote notebook, our folks are using that because they'll have a Matter set up and they'll have all their notes for that client in one place instead of here's an email. Hey, you should know this about, especially when you're working with junior associates. Hey, you need to know this about this client, or here's all the people that you need to speak with. And by the way, they don't like this on limitation of liability, but they like this in their warranties. That can all be in a OneNote notebook that's attached right to the Matter that's in the DMS, and it's always a part of what you're working on. And so all of this integration was what was very attractive to us because Worldox didn't have that. So I think those are two of the big reasons that we switched.
I would agree with that. I mean, our administrative partner that I report to, he kept asking me, boy, we're spending a lot of money on Microsoft 365. He's like, what benefits do we get besides, of course, I'm pointing out all these different things that Microsoft 365 gives us. But he's like, are we using that? Or are we using this other thing? Are we using, and I was, and SharePoint, we weren't using at all. We had never used SharePoint actually. And so that was one of the things when we talked about leaving Worldox, and really the main reason for us was we felt like Worldox had kind of stagnated. And I don't think I'm speaking ill of Worldox when I say that. Yeah, I think they were trying to get bought. I think that was what they were doing, which again, that's perfectly understandable, perfectly fine. But we had kind of decided that, well, we at least needed to look. And so when we started looking, one of the things that we really wanted to see was something that already utilized effectively the money we were spending on Microsoft 365, if we could. And that was a pretty easy sell when it came to my administrative partner, who was going to be like, he's the guy who always asked me, hey, is it more than $1? And it's like, yes, everything's more than $1, but we're already paying those dollars. And so that made a lot of sense for us. And then to be able to, again, like Heather says, to get everything to kind of synchronize together and be in one place. And a lot of our users, especially the younger users, were coming in and they had maybe used Google services, Google documents and things like that. And so they were used to some of those features, I believe from college courses and things that they'd been doing there. And I was able to say, well, we have all those capabilities because we're using Microsoft 365. But then we also have the administrative control over the matters, and we can actually lock down matters that we need to lock down, just like we could in Worldox. We were able to do all that. So anyway, that was our probably our biggest reason, which sounds like kind of an odd reason, but literally when you're already spending that money on Microsoft 365, it makes a lot of sense to do something that continues to utilize that, and also. The other thing that was a big deal for me, because from some consultants I had heard from, was getting rid of lock-in and making sure that we weren't beholden to anybody else for our clients' documents. very conscientious of the fact that, pretty much anything we're doing for a client, the client's paying us. We need to make sure that then is we can give that to, the client calls up and says, we're taking our ball and going home and we want all of our stuff. We can do that, and here you go. And we could do that with Worldox, and we can do that with Epona if we had to. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often. So, but wanted to make sure it could happen if we needed it to, without basically having to fight with whoever the provider that we were using was. And again, I've heard things. I don't know if they're true or not because I've never utilized any other document management system besides Worldox or Epona. So.
And one more thing I would add too, this isn't why we left Worldox, but I think this was wow, we didn't realize this was going to be a benefit for us, such a big benefit. And this is really one of the first slides that Keith showed, which is you've got the power of Microsoft behind you that is taking care of your data. So we have a lot of Fortune 500 clients that right as we transition to 365 and Epona, were starting to ask us for security audits. And they wanted all kinds of information about how their data is stored, all these kinds of things that with Microsoft, once you give them the SOC 3 and the SOC 2, they're over the moon happy because they're saying, okay, to Keith's point, you are having our data protected by one of the most, biggest experts in this area to protect data. I mean, they do it for the world. And so it's a lot better than saying, oh, well, we have this small document management company that, oh no, they're secure and we think they're doing everything the right way. Whereas when you say, hey, by the way, it's all on the SharePoint platform, it's all on Microsoft, and they are the ones that are responsible for ensuring the security of your data, that goes a very long way with the bigger clients that are very conscious about security, or even not the bigger ones, the ones that are in the healthcare industry or the financial industry. Even if they're smaller, they have very strict requirements and they keep asking, and they get more and more stringent year upon year. And Microsoft keeps up with that because they have to, whereas other document management providers may not because they don't have the budget for it or they don't have the push for it.
Okay, thanks for that. We have another question. This is a pretty broad question and you've both touched on it a little bit, but how was the switch when you went from Worldox to Epona? I mean, that's never easy. That's never an easy thing. But how was it overall as far as the migration? And how did the end users react to this? And how do the end users reacting today?
Yeah, I would say that the process itself going into it, once we made the decision to switch, the folks at Epona did I thought a really good job of asking us a lot of questions, which of course seems a little frustrating. You're like, no, we just want to switch. Let's just do it. We can't just do it. I mean, we had to. There's no such thing as a technology project. There's only business projects, as far as I'm concerned, even though I'm an IT manager. So we went through this process of making sure we understood how Epona worked, what we needed to be able to potentially do differently than what Worldox did. Now, 98% of what we were doing in Worldox is translated somehow into Epona. Actually, 100%, I think. I don't know that we did anything in Worldox that we can't do in Epona or anything along those lines. But we were able to do all that, and walking through that process and having people at Epona make sure that we understood what we were getting ourselves into, and making sure that we weren't going down the wrong path, maybe. And we involved a small team. I mean, we've got about 60 total people in our firm. We had about 8 or 9 people on a team that basically was helping define those things and making sure we selected the right folders and put the right information in our system. And then once we got it up and going, the training was good. If anything, I would say use more training. I know that it's one of the things that people at Epona avoid. Oh, we can provide more training if you would like. And most of our attorneys are, oh, I'm too busy for training. It's like, well, but that's on them, not me. But beyond that, I was trying to think if there was anything like that I thought was weird. And I dug around, especially after we did the transition, to make sure, of course, is all the stuff from Worldox in the new system now. Everything was. We didn't have anything that got lost. We didn't have anything that got changed or modified. We could still find things like based on the Worldox document number, for example. That was one of the things that we were able to keep, so people could go, hey, I need to find this document, and I've got this document number from 10 years ago. all that stuff was able to transfer across. Again, how these people had the document numbers from a long time ago, but we were able to do all that. And user adoption is always going to be a challenge. I mean, you know, I can say I had one partner who was not a happy camper for a while, but I don't think it would have mattered what system we would have switched to. You know, it was just a matter of being used to Worldox. But the learning process seemed pretty smooth. I think I've already said that some of our younger attorneys were all on board with being able to do the things that Office 365 give us, or Microsoft 365 give us, especially the co-editing or co-authoring of documents or spreadsheets or PowerPoint files. I mean, all that kind of stuff. We actually have people that do use that on a pretty regular basis now because they're trying to, well, usually it's because they're under the gun trying to get something done for a client and they want to have multiple people work on the same file at the same time. So things like that were actually really beneficial too. And you know, that's, I guess, where we're at this point in time. We've been using the system for about a year and a half now. And so at this point in time, training new people that are coming in has been really, really smooth as well. Nobody seems to really have a problem understanding how the system works. It's not that Worldox was that difficult either, but I think that the Epona system is pretty easy to learn. And also because it has so many different options, I mean, I can kind of get a feel for the individual and say, okay, it sounds like you're going to really live in Outlook, so let's just use the Outlook stuff. Or maybe it's somebody that really wants to live in the web browser, and that's what we do.
I would say our migration was fantastic. That was surprising because I expected the worst thing to happen, and it didn't. The migration went very smoothly, and I think, as Chad alluded to, the fact that Keith and his team were asking us questions that we didn't know to ask was very helpful, because I don't think we would have thought to do some of these things, and they kept, you know, kind of drilling down and drilling down and drilling down, which I think is why the migration went so successfully. That's the first on the migration. In terms of adoption and how that went, initially, attorneys are big fat babies and they don't like to learn anything new. And I can say that since I'm an attorney. And so that's, of course, hard. And to Chad's point, it doesn't matter what you go to. But I will say we're now almost 4 years into this, and our attorneys to this day still come back and say, God, I'm so glad we made this switch. Did you know we can do this? And I'm like, of course I know I can do this. We've trained you on how to do this. Yes, I know. Did you know we can do this? I mean, and I think when Chad brought this up, we had somebody working on a filing. It was last minute, and some attorney pulled up the document, and another attorney was in it, and they literally called me, or the teams chatted me, and got excited that they had another partner in the form, and they're working on section C, and the other one's up on section B, and they're happy that they don't have to wait until one person's done because they were under the gun. So now that they're used to it and they understand it, they're very, very happy we made the change. And we literally, at the first, a year after it, at our all partner retreat, I'll have to find a picture. They literally had a joke of right before my presentation on security, they got a little printout of Worldox, and it was on a tombstone, like a fake tombstone. And they did like a funeral walk up the aisle and handed me the world. I mean, that's just to tell you how excited they were once they got used to it, that they were happy about the transition.
You never told me about that one.
I didn't tell you about that. I'll have to find it. I'll have to find the picture of the tombstone. It was pretty funny. It was just, you know, styrofoam.
I got you.
Keith, we have some questions on pricing, and I think we're just going to take that off the table, and we'll contact everybody about that.
Other questions, Robert?
I think that Heather and Chad we do have other questions, but I think they've touched on everything. So we appreciate that.
Looks like there's one here. It says we got the one on migration and onboarding. Can you show us a comparison of 2 documents or versions? Yeah, so I'm not super good at that because I'm not a doc compare guy, and but I can try. How about that? I can try. And maybe Heather, you can guide me through this.
Yeah, absolutely, I do it all the time.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Here's the other thing too: is what's great is when you're in Word, you don't leave Word. When you hit the compare, it's going to pull up options, and now you can either compare to a document in the DMS, then pull it right out. When I say DMS, meaning you have not. So let me get a little background. For those people that choose to sync their matters to OneDrive, you're going to have essentially documents that are in these encrypted folders in OneDrive that you can access. So when you're having partners or attorneys pull things out, they can either pull things out directly from the DMS, or if they have synced a given matter, they can pull it out of OneDrive. So this feature and the compare feature in Word, you can be in a document and just pull those things out and do the compare either from this method, which Keith is showing, pulling directly from the DMS, or if they've already synced it to their OneDrive, they pull it from their native folders on their hard drive, which are in that encrypted, protected area that's just for the DMS files. So it works wonderfully because it's literally using the Microsoft technology built into Word.
Okay, so here's my document. It had 1.1 versions, so I'm assuming there are some minor versions in here. So, okay, so now what do I do?
So if you click on the review tab and you can hit,
Review.
you'll see there's two compare buttons. One is just a regular compare and one is DMS for legal compare.
Okay.
And if you click on the down arrow for compare, you can compare the current document you're in with a DMS legal document. And you would just click on that.
Okay, and then just pick a different
And
document
then just
here?
pick a different document.
Okay, and we'll pick this one. Okay, and say okay. And now it's going to be a crazy screen, right? That I have no idea.
It'll bring up three different windows. One window will have your original, one window will have the new document, and one window will have your redline document. And it works the same way if somebody had been working in their file explorer. So click on the compare, Keith, of the not DMS for legal, but the one to the left of it.
So I have no idea what that means. Where am I going? To the here?
Up to your ribbons.
To
the
my
one
ribbon?
You clicked on that said compare in DMS. The other one is just the compare if they've already synced their matters to their OneDrive. So not that one, but the one to the left. Yes. And then similarly, you can do that. You can compare, and you don't even have to have a document up for this one. You can just say, I want to compare two documents. And
So
then,
click that?
So click there. And then if you sync those items to your OneDrive, you click on that folder button, and it will open up your folder to see what document you want to pull up. And you can compare it to any other document. So that's going to pull directly from your OneDrive for Business folders to the extent you sync the matter from the DMS.
Wow. Yeah, so that's how you do it, folks. I'm completely lost, but that's okay. And then I click OK. Is that what I do?
Now you'd have to pick a second document to compare it to.
Oh,
use the folder, use the folder button to find another one.
Okay. Am I picking a different one here? I don't even know. Yes, I did. Okay. Whew. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if I do. Did I do that right?
That's exactly how it should look.
Okay. So to the person that was asking, can you do a compare? Voila.
Now, hopefully we're right at the top of the hour. So
okay.
I just want to let everyone know that we do have a recording, and I'll send a link out to everybody.
Okay. Well, Chad, Heather, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate this. And for all the folks that joined us today, thank you so much for coming and attending this event. Please reach out to us. I think, Robert, let me go ahead and put I can't do it in this mode. I think that everybody has our email addresses, yes? Or no?
Yes.
Yes. So feel free to reach out, or we'll reach out to you. And thank you for attending. Have a wonderful day.